we started looking at the theories of international relations yesterday, theory and concept in international relations, and I started by explaining to us that it's not just theories, but it's majorly concepts, because the theories of international relations are actually finite. We have the feminist theory, we have the realism, we have Marxism, we have liberalism. These are the specifics when it comes to the theories of in international relations. So what this course covers is not really those theories, it's more of the various concepts that are involved in international relations, especially when you look at the course content that is supposed to be covered. Okay, and we started by looking at power yesterday. From the course outline, we are to treat power, we are to treat conflict, we are to treat accommodation, we are to also treat systems theory, game theory, linkage politics. This is what the course content covers. And so based on what the course content requires, it's not really the theories which are specific and finite, as I mentioned earlier. It's more of general concepts that has to do with international relations. And in line with that, we started treating power. Yesterday, and introduced power, and I said power is very crucial in international relations, and it's very important because of the role it plays in politics. We define power as an ability, as influence, to be able to get things done. When decision needs to be made and somebody is in the capacity to make that decision, if we call that the person has power, okay, he has the ability, based on certain factors, that authority is upon him to make and take decisions. So we call that, we define that as power, and we said power plays a critical and crucial roles in international relations, influencing the behavior of states and non-state actors and the dynamics of global system. Power in international relations is multifaceted and can manifest in various forms, including military strength, economic capabilities, diplomatic influence, and soft power. Okay, we looked at all of those things, and we said is power can be multidimensional because it operates in different forms. So we proceeded in looking at the different, should I use the word manifestation, or the different means or forms that power manifests itself, because international politics is very wide. International relations is very wide, and we cannot narrow our mind, our focus on just a single aspect of power. If you go to different materials in an attempt to browse and study more on power, you're going to be seeing power as discussed from different perspectives. For instance, you can have power within an organizational context, within a work environment, okay? Which is not what we are looking at here. We are looking at power and how it operates within an international context. More of international relations concepts and context is how we are viewing power. And so we went on to look at the different various or the different ways that power is operated internationally and how it plays out. And I think yesterday we looked at seven means or ways that this power shows or is seen. The first one we saw yesterday was military power. So I'm just using 2 minutes to do a recap. Military power, under which we looked at hard power and military alliances. Then we looked at economic power. We also looked at diplomatic power. We looked at geopolitical power. We looked at technological power, looked at cultural power, and lastly, we looked at global governance. These are all the dimensions and aspects of power that we looked at yesterday. So, then after which we looked at conflict, And I said conflict is anything that disrupts the smooth flow of work. It's another topic and part of the course content, because in conflict, people have different views, different opinions, different perspective and ways that they see a thing. And so because of that difference in opinions and perspective and ways that a thing is seen, it may bring about disagreement and varying opinions when it comes to view and how a thing is seen. This reason bets conflicts, as we are going to see. So we said there are 4 types of conflict. We looked at interpersonal conflict between two or more persons. We looked at intrapersonal conflict, conflict within an individual or oneself. We looked at intergroup conflict between one group and another group. We also looked at intragroup conflict within a particular group. After which we went on to look at the causes of conflict. I said miscommunication, differences in values, competition for resources, power struggles, as we have looked at, when people are jostling for power. All of these things can cause conflict. Then we proceeded to talk about 3 major means now, which is not exhaustive, but we looked at 3 ways of resolving conflict. Now we have what we call conflict prevention, conflict management, conflict resolution, conflict transformation, conflict mediation. 5 different concepts in conflict, but because content will not allow us to look at this deeply, and so I've mentioned that you can take your time and look at these 5 concepts in conflict. So we looked at conflict negotiation, which is discussing the parties that are involved and are having conflict can come to an agreement in resolving an issue. Then we looked at mediation. We said mediation is a case where you have an individual that comes to help warring factions or individuals that are not in agreement, 2 or more bodies. This individual comes as a mediator to attend to solve that problem by fostering communication among the 2 groups. Then we looked at compromise, when each party has to forego something or give up something for that conflict to be resolved. Each person has to sacrifice something. So that was what we looked at on that conflict. Then we went to, now the topic together is conflict and accommodation. Then what is accommodation? Okay, and what do we have? To accommodate is to accept, is to be able to forbear, and to be able to look at how there can be collaboration among team members, irrespective of the weaknesses. So what is collaboration? Sorry, what are the types of collaboration? Accommodation, sorry, I beg your pardon. What are the types of accommodation we have? The first one is what we call collaboration. Now, collaboration is when 2 parties work together to find a solution. We call that collaboration. So they are working together. Okay, example, team members collaborating to address challenges and enhance productivity. Team members working together to find solutions that benefit all that are involved. So example is when you work together when there is a challenge. So the first type of accommodation is collaboration. You have to work together. Second one is compromise. Compromise is what it's more like a concession, finding a balance between 2 situations, finding a balance that is based on considering each person's opinion and perspective, that it can be mutually beneficial. So conflict and accommodation work together, and we are looking at where the conflict resolution comes in, which is negotiation, mediation, and compromise. Then accommodation, which is now collaboration. You work together. Compromise is a kind of sacrifice, a kind of concession where there has to be mutual benefit. Then we look at avoidance, choosing not to engage in a conflict or temporary withdrawing from a situation. When a party withdraws from a situation because they may not like the way it is going, we call that avoidance or withdrawal. Okay, then lastly, we talked about accommodating. Yielding to the needs of or desires of other party to maintain harmony. Choosing a restaurant for a group dinner based on preferences of what others. So in these 4 points we just looked at is what we mean by accommodation. And accommodation is all ultimate Accommodation is all still part of the process of getting an ultimate and lasting solution to any challenge. So conflict and accommodation go hand in hand. And accommodation, we have looked at collaboration, avoidance, and accommodating. Okay, so for the benefit or the want of time, I will talk about the benefits of accommodating or of accommodation. What is the benefit of accommodation? Number one, within the context of conflict resolution and accommodation, it helps in maintaining relationships. It helps in promoting cooperation. Yes, it helps in promoting cooperation because bodies have to work together. Countries have to work together. There has to be alliances. And if these alliances must work, then there has to be this working together. Okay? So maintaining relationship, promoting cooperation, reducing tension. Yes, reducing tension among the members of the bodies or states or countries that are involved in that case. It reduces tension. And these are some of the benefits when there's good conflict resolution, and by extension when there's good accommodation. So maintaining relationship, promoting cooperation, and reducing tension. So having said that, we've just looked at the concluding part of the aspect of conflict and accommodation. So I want us to quickly go to discuss systems theory. And after which we'll look at linkage politics. System theory, and we'll look at linkage politics if we still have the time. So what is systems theory in international relations? Now, systems theory in international relations is an approach, or what I want to call an interdisciplinary approach that analyzes the interaction and relationship among various components within the international system. Let me take it again. I said system theory in international relations is an interdisciplinary approach that analyzes the interaction and relationship among various components within the international system. It emerged as a response to the complexities, interdependencies characterizing the global political landscape. So here are some of the what we mean by system theory. So, but before we look at that, let me attempt to throw more light on the topic. So we mentioned from the beginning of the class and course, of course, knowing fully well that international relations is when countries and states have to depend on each other and have to work together to achieve their individual goals as a state or as a nation. So this interconnectedness among states, among countries, among continents, is what gives birth to international relations, where you have to have a relationship among these various countries that can mutually or that can benefit the various nations and hence the subject matter. So we now have individual diplomats that are trained with that responsibility of fostering communication and fostering the relationship among these various nation states so that they can all realize their objectives. So knowing that in mind, the system theory now comes to help in the analysis and to and the relationship among the various components of this international countries of this country. So this is what the topic is about. So let us look at the various approaches that can be used to foster and build relationship. Number one, system theory views international system as a whole. System theory views international system as a whole, emphasizing the interconnectedness of its parts. It suggests that events and development in one part of the world can have ripple effects and impact on other regions. It suggests that events and development in one part of the world can have ripple effect on other regions. So we have to look at international relations from a holistic perspective, knowing that it's not just one thing. A lot is involved, and the whole nation and the whole country is involved. So system theory views international relations as a whole, emphasizing the interconnectedness of the parts. One thing can affect the other. Secondly, we have to understand the interdependence of countries among themselves. This theory underscores the idea of interdependence among states, non-state actors, and other elements within the international system. Changes in one component can influence and shape the behavior of others. Okay. Then the next thing is a feedback system. System theory recognizes feedback loops and how they can contribute to the dynamics of international system. Changes in one part of the system can create feedback that either reinforces or counters the initial change, leading to a continuous process of adaptation. So that is what feedback mechanism. A feedback mechanism gives you the opportunity to know what other nations see, what they want, and how you can work together. So that's what we call the feedback mechanism. Then the next is emergence of patterns. System theories. Emergence of system theorists seeks to identify patterns and regularities in the behavior of international actors. This involves understanding how certain structures, norms, and emerge from the interaction among states and other entities. Okay, so emergence of patterns. A pattern is when you see something repeat itself, emerging over and over again. So that emergence of patterns, you study it, that a system can now help you to know how to operate or how to work because of a pattern. If you have seen, for instance, let's assume in Nigeria, you have seen a repeated pattern where the companies or the oil workers, or they have a perpetual opportunity to be able to do exports. They export repeatedly, or they have a perpetual listen that internationally they have what to offer to other countries, or they like to do business with other countries more than others. These are all patterns that can be observed, and based on that, other countries can know how to work in the country based on their cultures and patterns. So we call that the emergence of patterns. Then non-linearity. When you see something linear, you mean it is straightforward. So which is similar to what we call interdependence. So system theory acknowledges the non-linear nature of international relations, and so there has to be working together or interdependent. Then the next thing is multi-causality effect. What do you mean by multiple causality or multiple causes? One thing can lead to many other things. Yes. So if relationship between, let's say, Nigeria and China goes sour now, or Nigeria and the United States goes sour, it's going to affect our dollar, it's going to affect the export, it's going to affect imports, it's going to affect the economy. So you see that a poor relationship that turns out between two nations can lead to what? Conflict and chaos. Look at Russia, look at Ukraine, look at Israel, Palestine. This is what we're talking about in world international relations, that one thing can lead to so many other effects and issues which may not be good for the quality. So then the last thing we're going to look at under this, what I call complexity and uncertainty. We are looking at systems theory, and we said given the multitude of actors, variables, and interactions in international systems, system theory recognizes the inherent complexity and uncertainty in predicting outcomes. So complexity and uncertainty. So I've looked at about 8 of them. Let me mention them again. Holistic approach is system theory encourages a holistic approach in the view of challenges and solving problems. Okay, we look at interdependence, how countries have to work together to see that there's mutual benefit. Thirdly, we looked at feedback mechanism. Then we looked at emergence of patterns or cultures, understanding how countries think, how they operate, and what they want. Then we looked at the non-linearity, which is almost similar to interdependence. Then we looked at multi-causality, that one thing can have multiple effects. One thing can have multiple effects. Then we also looked at complexity and uncertainty. So all of these factors helps us overall that the system theory provides what we call a framework for analyzing the intricate web of relationships and dynamics in international relations, offering insight into the behavior of state and non-state actors within a global context. So this is what the system theory are about. It gives us several understanding and the multidimensional and multifaceted aspects of international relations and how it works and how it can effectively be managed. And the system theory now suggests ways brings about ways and means and things to note when dealing with state actors and how to effectively manage it. So those are all of what we have looked at, because we know that international relations is a very complex thing to manage and to deal with. So, but having a great understanding of the system theory would enable better relation and better interaction. So the next topic we are going to look at, we have just about 5 minutes more, is linkage politics. Linkage politics. I don't know if we're going to finish this, but let's just go into it, because we just have one more contact, which is tomorrow. So let us look at linkage politics. Now, linkage politics in the context of international relations refers to the practice of connecting different issues or elements in negotiation, diplomacy, and conflict resolution. It involves interweaving various aspects of international relations to influence the behavior of state and achieve desired outcomes. Here are some key aspects and examples of linkage politics. So we are looking at this person, which is international relations, and we're looking at what we call linkage politics. It is very simple. The term may sound big, but it's very simple. It is derived from the word linkage, and the link is a connection between one thing and another. So what we are saying in linkage politics is that the understanding the various and different elements that have to play when it comes to diplomacy, when it comes to negotiation, when it comes to conflict resolution, when it comes to economics, when it comes to power, when it comes to military, when it comes to having the upper hand, when it comes to climate, all of this interplay of activities, the interconnectedness within them, the linkage within them is what linkage politics is all about. So this key aspect helps an improvement and helps to effectively be able to, link activities to the advantage of one state or the other. So the first one is what we call issue linkage, or what we want to call issue linkage. Issue linkage. Now, states may link unrelated issues in negotiation to gain leverage or cooperation. For example, the country might tie economic aid to political concession, or link security issues to trade agreements. This aims to influence the decision-making of the other party by creating interdependence between different aspects of relationship. Issue of linkages. For example, a country may tie economic aid to political concession. So if you're on the table for a discussion, for instance, with another nation to discuss politics, and you now start bringing the connectedness between economics and politics. That's an example of linkage politics. So you said we do not want this person as our leader. Why? Because this person is operating politically, but he's going to have influence on the economy. So we are not voting this person because he's not a good economist and it's going to have impact on the economy. That is what is called linkage politics, where you tie one issue to another. It's called issue linkage. Number two, under linkage politics is what is called bargaining power. Linkage politics enhances the bargaining power by creating a situation where concessions in one area Linkage politics enhances bargaining power by creating a situation where concessions in one area are contingent on favorable outcomes in another. This can be a strategic tool to maximize influence. So linkage politics can be applied in what we call the bargaining power. Next is strategic alliances. Let me quickly list them. The multilateral diplomacy, security and economic linkages, crisis management, diplomacy, deterrent, and assurances. So when we meet tomorrow, I'll be able to shed a little more light on where we are stopping on linkage politics. Then we'll look at one more topic before we wrap it up. All of it is in terms of summary. So we have about 5 topics under this. I will be able to cover 3 topics. So we have 2 more at the end. So we're looking at linkage politics, and we've been able to look at issue linkage. We looked at bargaining power, and we've looked at strategic alliances, which we said linkage politics is used in the context of forming strategic alliances. Multilateral diplomacy is linking issues can be a more common practice in multilateral diplomacy, where states work together on multiple fronts to achieve comprehensive and mutually beneficial agreements. Security and economic linkages, which is connected. Then crisis. Lastly, public diplomacy and deterrence assurance. So it's important to know that while linkage politics can be a powerful tool, it also carries risks, because linking issues too tightly may lead to resistance or backlash from the involved parties, as it may be perceived as coercion or manipulation. Additionally, successful implementation of linkage politics requires a deep understanding of the motivation and priorities of parties involved and state actors to be able to achieve the goals and objectives. And so with this, we'll come to the end of today's class. When we meet tomorrow again, I will do a quick recap of what we just did, after which we will look at the last topic, the last 2 topics that we have. Hopefully, we should be able to start at the exact time tomorrow by 12 noon, so that we'll be able to recap what we have to look at within the short time we have. So thank you so much. Thank you for being a part of today's class, and have a great day ahead. Thank you.